आज मैं बात करने लगा हूँ अबाउट शेयर्ड लाइब्रेरीज। तो कैसा हुआ कि समटाइम्स द टीम रिक्वायर्स सर्टन थिंग्स, जैसे एक तो हो गया कि आप अपनी जेंकिंस फाइल जो है उसके अंदर आप यू राइट डाउन योर let's say you write down your functions, right? In a Jenkins file there would be stages, and in the stages you would be writing the different steps you want to follow. But what happens is that here they're talking as a pipeline is adopted for more and more projects in an organization, common patterns are likely to emerge. So it could be, let's say that let me over here, right? So let's say this is let's say team A, and then this would be team B, right? So initially we can say that team A was working on let's say a project, and the project what it does is it let's say it authenticates the users, right? So they were using this app. Later on, team authenticates the users, and then it let's say authenticates user, and then what does it do? It opens the app based on new users versus old users. So in a simple use case, so there was a team A which was using so it was using a pattern where it authenticates the user, and then based on if it's a new user, so it will show separate set of screen or separate set of things, and if it's a old user, it would show or take them to the page that they have set they want to go. Let's say very often we set a home page for our web browsers, right? So what happens in that case is that the web browser knows that you want to take the person to the specific home page itself, because I know and I have set it as a a preference. Many of the times when you are using a banking application, right, in the banking application you would see while you're logging down in the starting only, you would see there are a lot of options, like you want to go to the dashboard, you want to go to where to access like statements, etc. So that all keeps on happening over here. So then there comes team B. So team B also wants to use the same authentication app, but they just want the authentication app for so team B just wants the authentication app for logging users. So they want that the users should be able to log in, right? Now their user is able to log in, but so their user is able to log in, that is all they want. Now it is a common pattern that is taking place, right? So this is where maybe you can say the concept of shared library comes. So they were using this pipeline to authenticate or deploy certain things, but now since many users are coming in, they want a common pattern that could be used by multiple teams. Right now they cannot keep this same code or something specific to team A. They need to make it adaptable for team B, or let's say in future there is a team C that joins, right? So team C joins. In that case, we want them to be able to use this app or this or anything. So this is just a very vague example of using this. So often it is useful to share parts of principles between various projects to reduce redundancies and keep code dry. So even I'm not sure what they mean by dry. So yeah, so we'll talk about it later. Okay. Pipeline has support for creating shared libraries which can be defined in external source control repositories and loaded into existing pipelines. So what are they? So they're trying to say that the pipelines, they have support for creating shared libraries which can be defined in external source control repository and loaded into the current pipeline. So it's saying that you can create a right set of code in an external source repository. Let's say I have a repository in GitHub which goes by the name ABC. So in ABC, I'll define a library, I'll define a shared library, which would then be loaded into an existing pipeline. I have pipeline A which deploys my code to Docker, right? Now what I want is that there are a similar pattern of things many teams are using. So I'll create a shared library. So what shared library would do is shared library, it would what it would do is it would be stored in, let's say, in GitHub there would be a shared library, right? So shared library on GitHub, I would have the shared library. From GitHub, I would call it in my pipeline. Yeah. So from GitHub, I would call it in my pipeline, and in the pipeline, I would use the common code, like use the shared library. Use the shared library. What does it do? Now I can make use of the shared library. How? Let's go down. That's what she said. Defining shared library. Shared library is defined as a name, with a name, a source code retrieval method such as SCM, and optionally a default version. Right. So use the shared library. So this is a very simple workflow, how it actually takes place and how we use it. Now coming to the part how it is used, right? So it's saying that shared library is defined with a name, source code retrieval method such as what does it require? So it requires a name, then it requires an SCM, source code, it is SCM, so which would mean it like a source code retrieval method. We use SCM only. Then what does it do? Then it has a default version as well. Default version is nothing but the branch oblique tag that the specific repository would have for the code. Right, now what? The version could be, the name should be a short identifier as it will be used in script. Again, short identifier. Version could be anything understood by SCM, for example, branch, tag, commit, hash, anything. So I said that it would be this because like this is what I have usually used. Like we use branch, like I have not used, but I think branch is what we generally use, and using the branch only we can define. Let's say so default version would be for most of the branches these days it is main, you could say master, but let's say you are testing out a certain feature and you change the version to a specific branch for testing as well. You can set the branch as let's say test underscore Mayank, and now test underscore Mayank would take care of what? So now test underscore Mayank would be the version. Like by default, when the SCM would retrieve code, it would retrieve from that branch only. I could even create a release for that. By creating a release, I mean I could create a tag for this specific set of features, and then I could like reference. Now what Jenkins would do, it would reference that specific tag and fetch the data from GitHub, because we are using GitHub as SCM. Right? You may also declare whether scripts need to explicitly request that library, or if it is present by default. Furthermore, if you specify version in Jenkins, you can block scripts from selecting a different version. So when we define a version, it means that only the code or the tag or the release we are fetching, only that would be done, and no other releases can be fetched by Jenkins. The best way to specify SCM is using SCM plugin, which can be specifically updated to blah blah blah. If your SCM plugin is not integrated, blah blah blah. Now coming to a directory structure. So this is root source org foo bar.groovy var for org.foo.org class. This is I'm not talking about this directory structure of shared library in the repository. I don't know if it works or not, but let me just talk about the global shared libraries. So this is what we want to focus on, because this is what I will be doing or showing you folks. Now coming to global shared library. So where can we find it? We can find it in manage Jenkins, then going to system and global pipelines. So there we can go and add the specific global pipeline. Libraries are globally used pipelines. They can use functional. These libraries are considered trusted. They can run any methods in Java, Groovy, Jenkins, internal API, plugins, or third-party libraries. This allows you to define libraries which encapsulate individually unsafe APIs at a higher level wrapper, safe to use from any pipeline. Beware that anyone able to push commits through the SCM repository could obtain unlimited access to Jenkins. You need the overall run script permission to configure the libraries. Now this will be granted to Jenkins administrator. So again, this is from the security point of view, that any any API or anything that you are using in the global shared libraries, it would generally if you would see, so Jenkins disallow you to run the scripts direct away, right? You need to put them in a block or something like that. But this would not be the case. You could use any API and it could be unsafe as well. You could be fetching some data which could not be right, or you could be pushing some data which is not right. So beware of the API or the third-party library that you are using, and make sure that not everybody has access to your SCM repository, because anybody having access to the SCM repository would mean they have unlimited access to Jenkins, which is in case again very what would you say, security, like a security threat, because anybody having access to all of Jenkins, they could just put your Jenkins down so. Again, coming to so this is what we'll be using by using the libraries. So shared libraries marked locally implicitly allow pipelines to immediately use classes or global variables defined by such libraries. To access other shared libraries, Jenkins file need to use @library in annotation. So how can I use it? I need to use the @library annotation. यूज कैसे करेंगे इसको? यूज So at the rate library notation we use, and so this is how. So name would be, again as we said, it would be a short identifier that we would use to identify the name of a shared library. Default version, again it's master, right? Allow default version to be overridden, like just leave it as it is. Choose the retrieval method to modern SCM, and when you choose modern SCM you would be able to choose the repository you want GitHub, repository on GitHub that you want Jenkins to fetch your shared library from. So this is so when I use at the rate library, my shared library, it would just simply, you know, fetch the latest by default master which I have given, like default version which is master. But let's say in future I'm testing out a thing, I send out a tag specific version. So I would say, let's say at the rate 1.0. So this is the tag that I want over here. Now accessing multiple libraries with one statement. So I can simply put at the rate library, put a array and pass all the shared libraries I want to use in Jenkins file. The annotations can be written in script where an annotation is permitted by we are referring to class libraries. Okay. So now this is how you write. So I'm not talking about all this. This is the link. Anybody, like you folks, can go and read it. So coming to writing libraries at base level, any valid Groovy code is okay for use. Different data structure, utility, methods, etc. So we need to define. Okay, now comes the directory structure that we talked in the starting, like they were talking about it. So this is how a shared library would look like. It would be source, origin, foo, bar.groovy, vars, foo, groovy, foo.text, resources, or foo, bar. Again, so this is all it would, and this is how we would be retrieving it in our code. Right, library identifier, custom this, retrieval, modern SCM, task credentials, this. If you only specify library name positionally after at the rate in the library step, Jenkins will look for pre-configured library of that name, but you may also use retrieval method dynamically. Okay, so if you are not choosing modern SCM while defining global shared library in the Jenkins, in manage Jenkins, it would, you can straight away pass, like here also, retrieval, modern SCM, and then pass all the different things. It is best to refer to pipeline syntax for precise syntax of your SCM. Note that library version must be specified in these cases. Now writing a library is okay for use default. So this is like source org foo point.groovy. In that I would say package would be org.foo and point in 3D space. I just want I created a class point and then I created float xyz in a 3D space. Right, now accessing the steps. So this is foo zot.groovy or foo checkout from repo get URL this, return this, which can be called from a scripted pipeline like define z is equal to new or foo zot function, like how we call a class, and then it would be z would be a class.checkout form, and then pass in the repo. Class utility implements serializable. Again, so this is how different things we can use. And if I don't want to use this, I don't okay, so this is how I write it in a Jenkins file. At the rate library utils. Okay, so this was all about shared libraries. I'll maybe put in a different code in some time, wherein I'll have actually tested out shared libraries, and maybe we'll have better knowledge about it. So till then, take care. Bye bye.